Hello, Philip. How are you? Thank you so much for joining us today. Yeah, it's really a pleasure to have you here talk to us. So, first of all, let me introduce myself. So, my name is Gaurav. I'm working as a solution architect for Ace Factory. I've been associated with this organization for over 5 years. Okay. Yes. And yeah, I think your talk today was indeed very inspiring, and I think to dig into the internals of Ruby and all, you gave a different perspective altogether. So I would just like to ask you, like, what inspired you, or what made you think that there's a need for you to look deeper into the code, and what are your learnings or observations that you would like to share with us?
Yeah, sure. So the very first time when I had looked into the internals of Ruby was when I was trying to create a RubyVernac. So RubyVernac was a project wherein it allowed you to write Ruby programs in any of the vernacular languages. So the very first version was created back in 2014 for a Deccan RubyConf, wherein what it allowed to do was write Ruby code in Marathi. And the purpose behind that was to make it easier to understand the OOP concepts in Marathi. So, for example, the keyword class. For all non-native English speakers, when someone says class, the first thing that comes to mind is a classroom, not something like a mode or a sacha where you can put something and it will take a shape of that, right? So that is the thing. So I created it in, I was trying to teach Ruby to my brother and realized this issue. So I created a way to write Ruby programs in Marathi so that it can be taught better and understood better. And that time I had looked into the Ruby internals. Actually, one of my friends also helped me with that. He was pretty good with the C. But then it was very intimidating to get into the internals of C or try to do anything there and recompile it and everything. And recently what happened was I was trying out the new LLMs, Cursor and all those things. And what I realized is with those tools ready there for you to summarize things, it is much easier to dig deeper into the code bases. And that's how I thought that maybe it's a time to revisit the Ruby again with these tools available. So that's how the inspiration came, and I created a proposal out of it, and it turned out to be good.
Yeah. Right. And I think that is true to a great extent with these LLM tools and all. Things were not that easy back then. But yeah, things have been better. And I think one of other use cases I could think of is to teach programming to school kids and all, because especially in government schools and remote areas, not everybody is very well versed with English and they cannot relate it. So I think that's a wonderful idea. And is it like kind of multiple language you support with RubyVernac, or is it just one or two?
Right. So what we have done in the latest packaging. So this idea that was there initially, I built it with Marathi. Then 2015 RubyConf India that happened in Goa, I presented that same talk but in Hindi. Okay. And then about 2 years back, 2020, 21, I think 2022, where I had this same talk selected for RubyConf US also. There I presented this idea and ability to write the code in Spanish as well. So the current iteration that is there, it requires 2 gems to get going. One gem is called as a RubyVernac. What it allows you to do that translation wherein you're getting the code in Hindi, Marathi, English, whatever on one end, and the other end it's passing that to the Ruby and getting it done from there. And this RubyVernac gem also provides the generators. So for example, if I want to support a new language, which is let's say Tamil, then I can just tell it that, okay, I want Tamil gem to be created. So it creates RubyVernac Tamil gem. So the generator has the ability to generate that gem, create all the translation files in the YAML format for all the standard library, and then also an ability to add a GitHub transliterator so that it does the API calls to the GitHub and automatically brings on the translations also in it. Obviously, those won't be best suited translations. A manual person will have to go through that and ensure that those are correct, right? But then basically it is this 2-step method. And then the structure is being done in a such a way that it's very easy to create a new language. So for example, right now we have Hindi, Marathi, Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, Thai, Spanish languages supported. But any new language supporting should be very easy to get going as well.
Right. I think that will, generate a lot of curiosity, and it will, inculcate the spirit of programming into people. Right. Because I have also seen this problem, especially where people are not able to relate, like the example that you gave for class and all. But for a native English speaker, those things make a lot of sense and they can relate easily. So definitely this is going to help.
And so I would say that, like as I mentioned, right, like one problem that this code was trying to solve was being programmers and having English as a second language.
Right.
So having ability to learn program, talk about it, discuss it in your native language can help. So that's number one. Second is the examples that you can have can also be something that is very close to you. So the typical examples that are there when we are learning the programming is one is hello world, second is foo.
Right.
Both of that have nothing to get excited about,
right,
yeah?
right.
Or no connection.
Right.
But imagine you are writing a program wherein you have a class named as a Khalnayak,
right,
and then you are creating an instance of it called as a
your
Gabbar.
example had some
Right.
Gabbar, so
Yeah.
that was
So,
relatable.
The examples could be anything.
Right.
So it has a power to make it very, very entertaining. If you see a lot of great programmers, they started writing the games because it was fun. So this can add that fun factor to it because you can have the programs which are your everyday language, your everyday examples, and the fun things.
Right. And I think one of the other takeaways from your talk today was the insights that you provided about the C source code, C versus Ruby, and also Rust also came in picture. So I was reading somewhere recently that even there were some suggestions to write some parts of Linux kernel with Rust rather than C, and the community had some debates. So where do you see that trend going now? Is the adoption of Rust going to increase over the years in the later versions, or do you see that it will be restricted to a smaller subset?
I think it is going to increase going forward, and the main reason for that is the kind of complexity that is required out of these tools. So let's take an example where Ruby earlier had most of its code in C, and they figured out that there are some areas where maybe writing it in Ruby was little performant because in C you do multiple of things. For like keyword parameters was one of the example that was shared wherein it was easier or faster to get it done with Ruby. The other thing is a complexity. So YJ, which is a just-in-time compiler for the Ruby. Now the challenges with that was it is getting so complex that handling that kind of a complexity for a human brain and be able to keep it maintainable, iterate faster to add new features and also fix the bugs is something that only some elite developers who have a knack for that could do. But then if you move that to the Rust, now the complexity, like the ability to handle the complexity using that programming language is much higher. So immediately what happens is the code becomes accessible to a lot more people. So earlier it was very few elite developers who can work on that.
Group of maintainers and
yes,
kind of opening up.
Exactly.
Right.
And then because of that the maintainability is higher, your speed of developing is higher, and then the third thing is the total number of people who can contribute to it also gets higher.
Not only I think right review and
Exactly.
they can contribute in multiple ways.
Right.
And is there anything you would like to suggest to the new developers, these people who are listening to you? Anything that you would like them, like in terms of they could shape their career? Any resources, any blogs that you would like to refer?
So I would say so something that helped me is reading others' code bases.
Right.
So if you are a Ruby developer and you are just getting started, I would highly recommend looking at some of the bigger, better, well-maintained Rails applications and read code there.
Right.
If you are a little more well-versed, then go into some of the gems and then see how the code is written there. So one of the example I gave in the talk today was Shrine, and how can you read the code in the Shrine to understand what it means to have the modularity present in your code, and coupling should be less. So all those ideas you can get there. If you are already been through that, then next thing that you can look into is getting into the depths of Rails source code, and then understand what kind of all gems are there and how the modularity is designed there, and using the real time everything comes together, right?
Right.
So how that kind of an architecture is designed, and then if even that is something that you are well versed with, then the next step could be, if you are interested, is the Ruby source code that you can go into and learn. Yeah.
Right.
And the best part, which is like the new thing, earlier all of this would have meant you have to spend quite a lot of time to understand that, because one of the analogy that I gave, right, all these files which have the codes are like leaves. So you go leaf by leaf by leaf, create that mental picture slowly in your head, and then finally it all comes together and you understand, that's the architecture, that's why they did it that way, right? So it was very painstaking earlier. It was like a suspense movie that
I think it's easier to get lost. I think you mentioned in your talk that there were, I think, 123 different extensions. So it's very easier to get lost. You will not know where to start from. And I think that's what discouraged people.
Right.
And using these latest in LLM tools and all can simplify that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the final thing I would say. That
Right.
embrace the LLMs, but don't be lazy. If earlier it was taking 1 hour to get something done, maybe spend 1.5 hours using LLMs, but ensure that you have ability or a new tool wherein you can go at the depths which was not possible earlier.
Right.
So that's
Right. Yeah, I think you did mention that these tools are there to serve us, so we shouldn't let them replace us. So I think that is important. Thank you so much. Your talk was indeed very insightful.
Thank you.
Nice talking to you. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Thank you for the
Thank you.
discussion.
Thank you. Bye.